Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you all very much for coming this evening, and we are very happy to welcome you for this roundtable about digitalization on B2B services. I would like to first of all to warmly thank Stefan and Guillaume from System in Motion for their help in organizing this roundtable with the French Chamber, and of course our panelists for accepting our invitation to share tonight your experience in your sectors about the digitalization in your companies. So I will now leave the floor to Guillaume and our panel. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. Good evening. So thanks to everyone for coming here tonight, and also thanks to everyone which is joining online. I think it's one of the good things from COVID-19 that now we have a lot of webinars organized, and I'm very thankful to the chamber to keep organizing this webinar and allowing people to join. So tonight we talk about digitalization in B2B services. So we came up with this idea looking at everybody about innovation and how it applies a lot to products, how it applies to brands, how it applies to stores and commerce, and how all these companies in B2C are developing technology, selling technologies, and using it in their everyday life, and asking ourselves the question: how does these companies which are selling their services to others, are they still doing business in the old way and staying out of the global trends, or on the contrary, are they fully transforming their way of working? So that's the reason we have tonight 3 panelists, which are going to share their vision on the situation and the role that digitalization plays today in their business, and the role it's also going to play in their future. So tonight we have from left to from the opposite of me to come back to here. So Nicolas, which worked for Bureau Veritas, one of the leaders of testing, inspection, and certification. So Bureau Veritas have different business units covering naval industry, construction, industrial services, and consumer goods. And where in consumer goods you are taking care of technological products, so you're in charge of the Asian market and also more globally of the global strategy for your business unit. And your key customers are manufacturers like Schneider, Foxconn, Midea, and automotive constructors, General Motors, Toyota. Benjamin, you're working for Suez for more than 20 years, and in hazardous waste treatment, which is a very specific topic in Asia since 10 years. So you started in Shanghai Skip, which is one of the largest chemical industrial park in China, maybe in the world. We'll confirm that later. And so the services you are providing are for your end customers, getting them rid of their dangerous waste, and also for your partners in China, providing design, construction, and operation for the plant you cooperate. And Benoit, so you are working for GSN. You are a civil engineer. You started your career in 2010 on the French embassy construction in Beijing, and then you joined GSN in Shanghai, developing the business on the Shanghai region, and finally as a CFO for GSN. So GSN is a German property management services. You are providing cleaning services, technical service, gardening, and security. And your key customers are BMW, Bosch, and the Shanghai Eurocampus School in Shanghai here. So that's enough for the introduction. I think I will leave you the microphone. And the first question I wanted to see with you, and that's probably also the occasion to introduce yourself a little bit more, is well, what are the specific challenges you met in 2020 with COVID-19 and pandemic situations, and did digital solutions help you to overcome them? Nicolas, if you want to start.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. There should be one guy who starts, so I have the chance to do it. The challenge in 2020, I think I will not be, let's say, different from all you guys in the room or the guys online. The challenge, if we have to classify them, I would say three types of challenge. The first one is your team, your own people, your own staff. Obviously, when the guys who used to be next door your office is at home for a while, there is a total way to change the communication, total way to change the way to achieve a target with a team, total way to change the way we measure the people. And of course, the digitalization has been largely embraced by all of us. With more or less easy way. We have all tried to struggle to show an attachment on the screen because we click on the wrong button. We all have the dogs or the cat or the kids crying on the background because obviously the whole family was stuck there. And then we had to embrace this new environment, which was a big disruption in the way that we were interacting with our team, with our employee. The second thing is the client. The client, we used to visit them, they used to come to visit us, and all of a sudden, same. The connection has been cut with the client. The physical connection has been cut with the client. Hopefully here, and especially in China, we have moved from this physical relation or formal relation through email system to a WeChat system, a totally informal system. Before the corporate was saying, don't use WeChat to do business because it's not safe, it's not protected, it's out of our governance, IT governance. We are not sure, we need to think about it, and so on and so on. All of a sudden, WeChat becomes a must-have. And the guys who don't use it just disappear or lose business, lose client. So the way to keep the client, the way to stay connected to the client has also been a challenge in this way. But thankfully, due to all those communication system we have, the one recognized by the corporate or the one not recognized by the corporate, we have been able to finally still keep a link with the client and support them. The last thing is the service delivery. In the service industry, in our P&L, the personal costs represent the majority of our costs. Why? Because we are using those people because of their expertise, because of their know-how, in order to deliver a service to the client. In our situation, it was testing a product to give a certificate of compliance to a product. But obviously, during this period, if you don't receive a product in your lab to test the product, you cannot issue a certificate. And at the end of the day, we have classified this service delivery into three buckets. The first one is, okay, we can still deliver a service to a client because it's business as usual. The lockdown, the digital system we have in place was able to support the rendering of a service. No change, business as usual. The second bucket was, we can deliver the service to the client, but we have to transform ourselves. We have to digitalize ourselves. It doesn't mean we have to do a big bang, a big IT development, etc., etc. But just some small process change, some way of communication change into the service delivery that we need to put in place to offer the service to the client. That was something we overcome. And there is a last bucket, which is the one I was mentioning before. The last bucket is the things we cannot do in our mission. If we don't have a sample to test, if we don't have the last phone from cellular from the brands we all know, if we don't have the last coffee maker from the brand we know, if we don't have the module from the OEM car maker that we all know, we are not able to perform a test. And so far, the technology does not allow us to offset the fact to not have a physical sample. Maybe it will come in the next 3, 4, 5 years, where we will have some magic box, maybe one day, where we will be able to do a virtual testing and do a certificate of compliance on the virtual sample.
Mm-hmm.
But for the time being, it exists in some industry, but for the time being, we are not yet there.
Okay, yes. I think we will have an occasion to come back to that in the next questions. So Benjamin, what's your take on 2020 and lesson learned?
Well, on our side, we operate waste treatment plants and water treatment plants. So the service is, I think, even more than Nicolas, is very physical. It's wastewater that comes through a pipeline that needs to be treated, or it's waste, whether it's industrial or domestic, that needs to be collected and treated. So so the challenges of 2020 for us, I would say, for the plants in operation, were to maintain operation. But I would say, sorry, it's not too relevant to the topic tonight, but digitalization did not help us. I mean, we're not the main enabler to maintain those services. It was mostly about emergency response systems, staff management in terms of health and safety. So in that respect, I would say the challenges were addressed by other things. For sites in construction, nonetheless, it was a bit different. We have sites in construction in different parts of the world. For Asia, for example, in Thailand, and we needed to commission equipment and start up these plants. For example, we have in Thailand two plants under commissioning. We had 2 plants under commissioning. One was a waste to energy plant, so that means a power plant using waste as fuel, domestic waste, and another plant was a plastics recycling plant in the outskirts of Bangkok. And we needed to bring expertise to inspect equipment, to commission these equipments. So we've been using virtual presence, like technologies like HoloLens, to allow experts from Paris or based in China to intervene on these sites and provide technical support that they were not able to provide physically. So I would say this is the, as far as digital is concerned, how it has helped us to address the 2020 challenge. After that, I would say it's very generic. It's what everybody here has experienced. It's about a lot of video conferencing and anything that can be done to achieve social distancing.
Okay. Thank you. And finally, Benoit, what's your summary of this year and challenges?
Well, for us, when the COVID crisis has hit, which has been the big event of this year, for us, it's actually been kind of an opportunity because we provide facility services. So basically, we do the cleaning. So lots of clients actually had to rely on us to do disinfections. Lots of going to clean the machines, to clean the offices. So we were forced to keep running the operation. And we found ourselves quite well prepared, actually, because we have been working for a while on a structure, an IT structure, where basically we try to be cloud-based. So all the running the back office, because when the COVID crisis hit, the people had already come back to their hometown, and we had to bring our staff back, right? And they were in the countryside; they were not able to travel anymore. So we used all the electronic tools we have. So, for example, WeChat is one of them to find who was who had not left the town and was able to come back to work. So this was one. We had also our emails have been decentralized on the cloud, our file server. So we were able to also, I think we took one day, we asked our staff to come back to the office by turn to take their laptop, bringing back home, and then they were able to work from home. So I think the digitalization for us has helped us maintain the things running, actually. And all the convenience you have today with Taobao, for example, to find suppliers for your detergents, for the mask. I mean, we have around in GSN around 2,000 staff. So, and a large part of them, I would say 60 to 70% are cleaners. So those people had to be on site, they had to provide a service, they had to be protected. So we had to organize a supply chain for to find those masks, because at the beginning that was really difficult to find. You had to go straight to the factory, and then it was discussions, where do you find them? And the other things we have been able to do with digitalization is, thanks to having all our infrastructure decentralized and people able to work from their home, we were, for example, able to keep issuing debit notes to clients. We were able to process the payroll. For example, a thing we have done recently, I mean, it's almost finished, this process. It's to have attendance systems connected by SIM card to the internet. So basically now when you want to do a payroll, you want to check who's been on site, who has been doing overtime, you find this information straight on a software that is used in the browser. You can extract this data and be able to calculate the payrolls of everyone. So there's been actually very little disruption in our business. And I would say, compared with local competitors, for us, we have taken this as an opportunity, because we heard lots of stories about local companies who took the opportunity actually to try to squeeze extra business out of their clients, saying, okay, the government prevents our people from coming back from their hometown, so we have to use other people who we pay extra money. And we have said, okay, we're going to do the opposite approach. We're going to keep providing the service. We will pay this overtime. Maybe we will stomach the extra cost. And thanks to that, we have been able to gain trust from the clients. And that also has brought us some clients, because we heard of some people who told us, okay, we kicked our supplier out because they have abused us during the COVID, and we want to work with GSM. So it's been a rough time at the beginning of the year. But I think we've been able to serve our clients. And as you explained also, the communication with the client, I mean, with WeChat, it's never been lost actually, right? Because the people are on your phone. I mean, your phone is vibrating in your pocket all the time. This has been, I would say, the digitalization, and lucky for us. I mean, we had started this process earlier, but we were very lucky to have it. I mean, we use very basic tools. I mean, we don't develop our own solutions. For example, the staff who were blocked in their home with their laptop, they install a software like TeamViewer. We have an IT guy who supports us, so he takes control of their computer. He builds the access to the server, and then we have one server where all the files are centralized. People can share, exchange, work on the same files. So I would say yes, digitalization has helped us go through this tough period. But we've turned it into opportunities, I would say.
Okay, thank you for that. Actually, we have a little bit time remaining on this question. To go fast and coming backwards, I would like to know whether you were thinking you were prepared, you were happily surprised by the fact that you are well prepared, or was it a surprise for you to see, well, we are well prepared for this kind of situation, or was it something you planned in advance? So was it a good surprise, or something that you were expecting? In a couple of seconds.
Well, as I just told you, this is, for us, it was a process that we had initiated before. Why did we start doing this? Because I mean, I had the feeling. I mean, I talk once in a while with people from IT. I'm not at all from IT, but I realized I had a centralized server before, and this centralized server was always having problems, and sometimes for so stupid reason, like the server. I mean, we're a small company, right? So we had the server next to the cart where the IE was putting her mop. So once or twice she shot the socket and the thing ran off, right? And then my boss, who's often based in Europe, is like at 2 in the morning, is like, I don't read my emails, right? So it starts on WeChat. I thought, okay, I'm in charge of IT, right? So I had once or twice to go to replug the socket. So I said, that's enough, right? That's enough. It's you have this. You have also the mail server, right? It's POP, it's IMAP, it works, it doesn't work, it's connected. Is it the internet? Is it the electricity? So people came and said, you can rent an Aliyun, right, a cloud. You put all your structure there, and they guarantee that the thing will be running 24/7. So I put my files there, I put my website, I put my emails, and since then, I mean, that's. But yeah, but that in the beginning, that's really started out of an annoyance, and I was happy that this was already there when the COVID started. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Sorry.
Will also answer the question.
Okay.
I'd like to say that actually I was positively impressed by the response. We are in an industry where we are exposed to a lot of risks. And therefore we have emergency response plans that were deployed, and that actually we are used to deploy because we conduct drills and we review these emergency response plans on a regular basis. So each plant in China and in the world, whether it's in waste or water treatment activities, deploy these plans. In terms of communication, and I think many people here will probably feel the same, because of the tools we have today, I mean, communication was happening almost as normal, just with the exception of no physical meeting. Our teams were, I think, when you work in environmental protection, in wastewater, or in waste collection or waste treatment, there was a kind of pride of people to maintain essential services to society. So I think it's something that you might have seen also in the media, people in the streets of Paris or London putting signs outside of their home, thanking the garbage collectors for maintaining those services. And I think this was, it's in those kind of crises that you can see how strongly people feel about their mission, the mission of their enterprises. And so it goes again beyond digital, but I mean, of course, all the digital tools were there, and that allowed us to communicate and set up these systems and maintain those services. But then definitely a lot of pride to have been able to maintain those services anywhere in the world, actually.
Yeah, in our case, we were just about having releasing our new production system, just on time. But I would say not enough. I mean, never enough. The digitalization, I think, of course, we need to be reasonable because we also have a budget constraint, and there is also a matter of timing. Sometimes when you innovate too much, it's not only that the people, are reluctant to adopt the innovation, but it's also sometimes the client who are not yet ready to accept this innovation that you propose them. But I would say baseline is never enough digitalization.
Thank you. So for my second question, so the question will be about more, do you see currently opportunities created by digital possibilities? So did you already seize some of these opportunities, or do you have plan to take them in the near future? And Benjamin, you have the microphone in hand. So
okay, so I'll start this one. For us, in China specifically, I manage a business of hazardous waste management. So I will talk about this business specifically, not about the entire business of Suez. Our main challenge is really risk management. We receive hazardous waste from hundreds of customers. Each of these customers have dozens of different hazardous waste. Some of them are corrosive, some of them are inflammable, some of them are reactive, some of them are explosive, some of them, etc., etc. And this is the sort of material that are behind a lot of industrial catastrophes that you hear about in the news. Ammonium nitrate recently in Lebanon, flammable solvents last year in Yancheng City in Jiangsu province. Phosphorus-based compounds in Tianjin a few years ago, etc., etc. So the main challenge for us is and the expectation and the need of the customer and the service we bring is basically collecting these wastes, receiving them on our plants, treating them in a safe way, while reducing the footprint, the environmental footprint of the treatment of these wastes, and making sure that they don't end up somewhere in a field in China or in the countryside. That all of this is done within the regulation, and that meanwhile there's no industrial catastrophe due to this accident. In other words, that we don't blow ourselves up. And so the digitalization, where does it fit in there? It's basically a great way to make our processes standard, to make sure that people follow these processes, and to gain efficiency in these processes. I'll give you an example. We need to have a waste database to be sure that when we receive a waste, we understand every day and every hour what kind of risk we're going to take, how to protect ourselves, how to handle the waste in a safe way, what waste we cannot mix with another one, etc., etc. So we need a database, and this database used to be handled under Excel and Word. It was absolutely not workable. That was more than 10 years ago, and this is how we started digitalization, basically, because we were really in a almost stone age, and the level of risk we were managing with the tools we had, there was a disconnect. So we started to build databases, to use different softwares to help us do that, in a way to standardize the processes. So really the foundation of our, I would say, journey is risk management. While we gain efficiency also in the processes, we enable our team to gain, I would say, clairvoyance, or at least you could call also that some free brain time to think, and not to be immersed in processes that they might miss. That okay, the waste that we receive today, okay, actually it looks quite different from the usual way, and usually it's red and today is green, and there's smoke coming out of it, and maybe we need to do something about it. So gaining efficiency and really I would say lucidity for our teams, and this is in terms of industrial risk management. This is very important. Another example is when you operate such plants, you need to be sure that the plant is going to be in mint condition at any time, and the process is going to perform 100% at any time. And so we have done a lot of work to also digitalize our maintenance management system. So with Steveko, who's present here, and this we have done since we started that work 15 years ago when we started our first plant in Shanghai. So basically, deploying this computerized maintenance management tool has enabled us also to, I would say, infuse a maintenance culture in the company and within the team. And it was something 15 years ago that was not that obvious. We had a few managers coming from France. They were explaining to the teams that, okay, this piece of equipment, we need to change it before it breaks. And for a lot of people back then, and still today, sometimes in some of our new plants, it was a very strange notion. It didn't seem economical at all for them. It didn't make sense. But then they started to realize that some critical parts, some critical equipments, if they are not performing 100%, then the risk is that your process will not perform. And in our plants, typically what it results in is environmental non-compliance. And for some of you who are involved in those kind of industries in China today, environmental non-compliances today in China, since the new environmental protection law was passed 5 years ago, it means prison. And I don't want to go to prison, so I'm glad we put those digital tools in place.
That's a great opportunity indeed. So, Benoit, I have to choose the direction.
Okay, so for us, the way we approach digitalization and we try to make opportunities out of it in GSN, it's as I said, we are not a very big company, so we don't have an R&D department, we don't have programmers. So the way we approach digitalization in GSN is I try to be open-minded, which means when suppliers, when vendors come to propose me things, I usually try to listen and think how I can use the technology to improve usually the service to the client. And I'll give you one example. So we are also actually working with Bluebee, the solution developed by Civeco for the maintenance. So when I started maintenance, I mean, I working in GSN 10 years ago. I was director of operations at the moment. So the maintenance was really made at the very beginning, it was with paper. So basically, the maintenance plan was written somewhere by hand, and we were performing the maintenance. And the reports were also made by hand. And basically, all this information was piled up, gathered, and never analyzed or never, sometimes not even communicated to the client. So after this, after a while, we developed another way, which was a little bit more structured, where I remember at the in the middle of my career, we were making the maintenance plan in Outlook calendars. So basically, we were just putting a task and putting a recurrence, but then you could also not share the files with the client. It was not shared on the cloud, so only one person had the access. And then came the Bluebee solution. So Bluebee, it's actually a software. So when we take on a new facility for a client, there are two ways. Either they have a list of their equipment and we just input this in a database, or I send my team, the technicians, to go around and to list. So for example, here there's a projector, there's an AC vent, there's electricity, there are fire sprinklers, etc., etc. And then we put this into a database. And for each category of equipment, we program a maintenance plan. So in GSN, our particularity is that we have kind of imported to China a maintenance standard it's called the VDMA. So I think 15 years ago, we had a German engineer in the company who took it and translated it from German to English because there was no English at the time. We made lots of a big database on, for example, the AC filters you need to change twice a year. Once every 2 years, you need to refill the gas inside the AC unit. And so we combine the database we have made with the maintenance plan, and this go into a cloud system, and that issues what we call work orders. So for example, the technician, he has his phone with an app connected to internet by 4G, and when he comes in the morning at work, he finds on his phone a list of the things he has to do today. So go check the AC, go check the electricity, and then he has to go to the equipment. He has to scan a QR code to prove that he has been there, and he puts his report in the system, and this is uploaded straight to the cloud. And what this has allowed to do is, of course, first of all, we work paperless. The data is aggregated, it's analyzed. The client gets an account, so he can see, it's almost in real time, actually. When you go to potential clients, you can show them the phone, you click on send, and you see the thing appearing on the screen. And from there on, we have been able to improve a lot the quality of our service, actually. Because when I was in GSM at the very beginning, it happens once or twice that the client tell me, but I have no idea, guys, what you're doing on my site, actually. And now this is not possible anymore because there are the... No, that's true. There are the records. There are the records. And the records show, okay, this technician, he has clocked in starting to fix this equipment at this time, finished clocked out at this time. He has made a picture to show that he worked really on the system. So you can see how busy the people are. You can make very refined analysis. So for example, let's say you're able to tell the client, okay, we have spent a lot of time on this equipment, maintaining it. So you can tell the client, okay, maybe your equipment now is a little bit old, actually. It's costing you a lot in spare parts and things like this. Maybe it's time to replace. And you can bring an added value to your client like this, because you're really not the guy fixing stuff. You're also the guy being proactive in the maintenance and telling them. And this has allowed to create, I think, a lot of trust actually with clients. And also serve our clients, because usually we have our clients, they are going to be in the facility department or the administration department. So they're going also to be able to share this with their colleagues, for example, the procurement department or even the higher level of facility management. And that also really simplifies the communication a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I think bringing visibility is one of the use case we see for digitalization. I think it's a great example. What about you, Nicolas?
Opportunity, I would say there is the opportunity, the internal opportunity. So this situation has triggered and has unlocked a lot of roadblock in everybody's mind. I mean, to take your word, Benjamin, it's like we have time to think. We have time to think, and during this lockdown, and then we realized that probably the digitalization can be very helpful to do report automation. We are managing something like probably 30 Asia scope, something like 20 to 30,000 reports a month, based on the product that we are testing in our lab. Instead of taking the template A, B, C, D related to the right product, the right standard, and having the engineer who is restarting to do the report, the testing report from scratch, from the page 1 to the page 70, yeah, because we still have 70 pages for testing report. But maybe there is an opportunity to automate 20%. Let's start with 20%, and maybe do a next step in the next 6 months to go to 30%, and maybe one day we will be able to automate 99%. So it's a journey. So we have identified a lot of opportunity actually for the efficiency, and like what you say, Benoit, all of this is a double benefit, right? It's having the people who are increasing their opportunity to do more interesting job instead of typing for an expert, for example. So during this automation, the time saved for our people can be to get trained, to follow whatever online schooling program or whatever. So it's really beneficial for the organization. And the second impact is, of course, for the client, because all the gain we can have in terms of lead time, this is just for the client, because the sooner a client can have the certificate to put a product on the market, the more chance he can have to increase his market share. So this is the opportunity we have identified, and there is a couple of lists. Some are maybe a little bit too much, I have to say, but some are really realistic and don't really require a huge budget, a very specific development, and so on and so on. So this is the internal opportunity and benefit we have seen. The second aspect is the service delivered to the client. I will take the example of another division of Bureau Veritas, which is in the business of making the assessment of the facilities and the plant. Typically, one of your facilities, Benjamin. But instead of sending an inspectors in order to make 1,000 checkpoints to see if the site is in compliance with the local regulation, we have started, this division in BV, in Bureau Veritas, has started to send the drones to do the checkpoint. So we have an operator who is qualified to pilot the drones. And the drones is doing the round of the site, is able to station in front of a 20 meters, silot or something, in order to see if the welding is correctly done. There is no damage, there is no corrosion. The drone is able to go even to a very smaller space, as long as you use, of course, professional equipment. And this is also what I was saying before. This service is not new. We have tried to launch it several months or years ago, and it was not really successful, per my understanding. But obviously now the client is ready, and the client even pushed for that, and the client even asked for that. So there is a timing for all this innovation, which is important. Another example is before, when we want to, when a client, for example, a retailer is buying a product in China, you want to ensure that the production is compliant before sending the credit letter and do the payment and so on and so on. We used to send, the client has to send an application form with a nice signature, with a chop, to the customer service, and the customer service need to ensure that, okay, the signature is okay, the chop is okay, and then the customer service proceed with the paperwork or the email, open a physical folder, put this folder into the inspection team. Today we are able to do, and we have launched a booking platform where the client can book an inspection online. Originally, this platform was mainly to target the medium size or the small size company who does not have a lot of inspection, a big program of inspection like the Carrefour, the Walmart, the Auchan, etc., etc. It was just for the small, medium size company who have some needs from time to time. And this platform, to be clear, struggled to take off when we have launched it. But nowadays, definitively, the client who even have more volume, they are asking us, why you don't open me an access in order I can book my inspection instead of still continuing to send you paper and so on and so on. So this is definitively the benefit we can see. What was probably not possible today, because in our environment, in our ecosystem, it's a process. It's driven by process. A standard is a standard, a clause is a clause, a pass is a pass, a fail is a fail. There is no compromise. We are a third party. If you need the application form 1.2.3.4 to perform a testing or an inspection, you really need it. Well, we see now that the ecosystem, even if we are in a very rigid environment, speaking about the conformity and the certification, we see that the technology finally is more and more accepted because the technology is more and more reliable. We have a discussion about using the blockchain to ensure that the certificate is a real one and not a fake one. Someone has not usurpated our certificate. So, and everybody trusts the blockchain. I mean, today, probably there is few people on planet Earth who is questioning the integrity and the robustness of a blockchain. So this is such kind of tools, such kind of digital innovation that for our job is very interesting, because unanimously everybody agree that this is unbreakable. This is something we can rely on. And this is typically what we are selling. We are selling trust between two parties, and we need to have this level of integrity when we deliver something.
Well, thank you for that. Actually, that's to see that presence of technology in the business becoming more and more important will lead me to the last question, my last question, and which should be a conclusion and trying to answer fast. It's about the role of digitalization in transforming your business, and do you see digital and technologies as a strong vector for transforming your business in the next years, in the coming years? And do you see it as a strong one? Benoit, it's for you to start, and we'll have 2 minutes per person.
Okay.
We'll try to keep that.
Well, for me, the way I see the future in our industry, because we provide a service that's really physical, right? We are here to mop the floor and to change the equipment. So I think for us, it's going to go in steps. And before the step of digitization, I think we're going to go more through robotization, actually. So I think you can see sometimes. I mean, maybe at home you have one of those vacuum cleaners that go around and clean the floor. We are trying to have things like this in factories, for example, or in offices, but because of the configuration of the space, it's a little bit more complex. We're not there yet, but those technologies are progressing, and I think they're becoming more efficient. I think there's going to be tremendous change, for example, also with the for example, if you want to think about cleaning toilets, right? Toilets, it's quite complex actually, because you have those machines that come, you need to kind of, I mean, they spray water all around, right, with the detergent, then they rinse. So and they have difficulties going into the booth because they're a little big. So I think it's going to go in steps where also we're going to have to work maybe with architects and engineers to maybe redesign a little bit the way we build to allow those robots to be more efficient. And once this is implemented, I think digitalization is going to come in the sense that those robots will all be IoT objects. So basically, I think they will be very, very autonomous, and our business is going to be transformed. The way I see it, in probably 10 years, when you order service from GSN for cleaning, you're not going to have an army of cleaners who are going to come, because in China we work with the team is on site the whole day, right? And we clean, for example, toilets. It's usually 10 times per day. I think in 10 years, what will happen is you will have maybe one guy who come. It will be an engineer, and he will be there maybe with his laptop and an army of robots, and he will set up the thing. And then once he has set up the thing, he will go, and those robots will be connected with IoT, and they will be able to say, okay, now I need to replace the squeegee, the thing that sucks up the water from the floor after mopping the floor. I need to replace a brush, and those things will be monitored, also centralized through internet, and this is how it will. I see our business being transformed.
So a big transformation through robots and digital.
Yes. If you give me 1 second more,
yes,
we're gonna have also some other things, like, because I talk a lot about cleaning, but for example, for security, currently we have what we call monitor rooms. So monitor rooms, you need to put a guard watching the wall of screens. I think they're going also to be helped by the fact that the cameras are higher and higher resolution, and you have AI. Artificial intelligence is going to be able to tell the guy, okay, now you need to look here, you need to look here. And I think with things like 5G, for example, also we're going to have bigger bandwidth. So we're going also to be able to centralize the monitoring room. So maybe we'll have one monitoring room in the center of Shanghai. And some companies have this already. GSN is not there yet. But you will have also maybe one guard will watch 20 properties, because AI will tell him, you need to look here, you need to look there. And similarly, we have also some kind of same technology with currently in China, we still have this regulation where you need to have technicians 24/7 in the transformer room. So the transformer room is, you have the big cable that comes from the city, and you cut it into different smaller cables to power your facility. And we're starting to have devices that you plug to those systems, and then they send the information about the temperature, if there is a short circuit and things like this, to a remote room where you have a team of very qualified people, but who go only to fix the problems when they happen. So this is how I think in the middle term, technology is going to transform our industry for the facility management.
Transform the business and let people be more specialized and more technical.
Sorry
okay,
for being a bit
thank you, no problem.
On our side, it's again related to risk management. Digital technologies have been a fantastic enabler for growth. 6 years ago, we had just one plant in Shanghai to treat hazardous waste. And the environmental awareness in China started to increase, regulations started to be implemented, and there was a huge deficit in hazardous waste treatment capacities. So all of a sudden, we had this challenge to start to build and start up and operate 2 plants every year. And given the risk that we take, the training that is required, honestly, I was a bit worried. I didn't want to go to prison again. And so through the digital tools, we've been able to replicate the processes. We have also used digital tools to put at the disposal of our teams knowledge. Of course, it doesn't replace on-field training, but there was also one way for us to guarantee that each new team that started a new plant was properly trained. So the result is that 6 years ago we had one plant in operation. Today we have started since then 6 more plants in China. They are all operated safely. I'm still here. I'm not in prison, and we've been able to replicate that operational excellence. And without digital, the digital solutions that we had put in place, and we are still continuously developing, I don't think it would have been possible. The need, I would say, the need of our customers is the same: is to dispose of hazardous waste safely. We do it better through digital solutions. So it allows us to grow. It doesn't grow the market.
So for you, it's a necessity to move forward and cannot be another way.
Absolute necessity, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, today, going to what Benoit and Benjamin mentioned, the artificial intelligence, we can also see that in our business. Risk management, same when we give a pass or a fail. If the machine through artificial intelligence, through algorithm, give us a result to say that, yeah, the product is 99.9% compliant. Do we sign up a paper or not? Our business has to evolve into this kind of consideration. 99.99% maybe is not 100% compliant, but if the machine say it, probably the machine is more accurate than the human who is making today an assessment on the product. So the integration of all this technology will have to make a lot of reference point totally reviewed and totally challenged. But the same, the IA. Welcome to receive your product in our lab. We can test the 5G, 4G, whatever you want. This is coming, and this is also applicable to our business. So there is no discussion that definitively the digitalization, as I said before, never enough. We're never enough. We are in this trend, and we even have probably to accelerate.
Okay, so thank you for that. So I think, yes, it's clear that digitalization is there for a long time and will remain there. So I think it should be time for some questions. The time for you to think about. I would like just like you to take some time before while thinking about your questions. So when we organize events, we like to have feedback about what we are doing. So if during the question time on before the end of the session, you have the time to scan this code and fill in the survey, that would be great. And I don't know if we have any questions from the room or from the people on the web. I think there was one, but
yeah.
Yes.
Just hold on. I need to connect at the same time. Okay, so first question from online. Could you go more into details on how technology can help us expand our markets during the post-pandemic slowdown?
Is there anyone which want to reply that?
Could you go more into details about how technology can help us to expand our markets during the post-pandemic slowdown?
Can technology expand your markets?
I go, guys, but next one is for you. Okay, so but I think this is pretty much what we have mentioned through the different business. What we have put in place to face this situation this year is probably now becoming a baseline. It's probably becoming a totally standardized approach. It's not an outstanding thing now for our business to offer a client to do a site inspection with the drones. It becomes our standard offer, and I think this has helped us to reach. Thanks to this innovation, this has helped us to reach a new step, a new area of service B2B. And we just have, I mean, now it's there. When the client will have a report coming from a drones of his plant, the day we will say, well, you know, we just do that because it was the COVID and so on and so on. But now, you know what? We will send back our inspector on site. And by the way, the pre will be more expensive because probably if you have a drones, it's not the same price than you have a guys on your site, right? And the client will say, no, sorry, we will not come backward. And this is specifically speaking about how to address the post-COVID and how to expand the market. That means today, if you are not able to do inspection with the drones, you lose your market. So that's just the momentum that has been put in place now and has to be carry forward.
Kazwan.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have one question. What could be for you the limit of the digitalization? You have been talking about your customer that could not be ready yet for some innovation. I see towards the point my side that first will be the regulation. So we are in China, in a country that is quite advanced in terms of digitalization and regulation. But in some other countries, especially in Europe, it's sometimes a bit more complicated. And the second one will be the environment and the impact on the environment about of the digitalization.
Yes.
I can give one example where digitalization might find its limits. Now all the warehouses, logistics, they are going to smart warehouses. Each of the plants that I manage, they have warehouses with hazardous waste. So it's managed by people, chemists, actually. Most of them have master's degree in chemistry. They know how to separate those chemical compounds. They manage stock in a way that they prepare some kind of recipe for everyday treatment. They know what waste to associate, what waste not to associate. They know, I mean, so it's really c'est un métier. It's a what? It's a trade. It's an art where it's really it takes expertise. So I have a lot of people in my team thinking about how to make a smart warehouse out of these. And we have huge challenges, and maybe in 5, 10 years, 15 years, it will be solved, but I really am not sure. You have to imagine these hazardous waste, they come in all shapes and forms. Some of them come in 200-liter drums. Some of them are liquid. Some of them are solid. Some of them are gas cylinders. Some of them, the packaging is really not standard, and because and it's deformed. So it's not a standard product. I mean, a smart warehouse, you need very standardized packaging, very standardized format, labels that will not fall down because all of a sudden the waste packaging has a leakage or something like that, you know. And so I think this is where potentially we hit some limits in terms of digitalization that can be someday resolved through AI. But you need the AI needs to take a number of variables in this particular case that for me seems to be extremely hard to take into account.
Just I will not be that original, but for me the real key limitation to the digitalization is the virus, but not the same one that we've got. The cyber criminality, cyber attack, hacking. This is true for all the software that we speak tonight, but tomorrow it will be true for the device. Benoit speak about the IoT or the IIoT, industrial Internet of Things. This is, I think, the limitation. So the ecosystem is trying step by step to take a step forward in terms of standardization. So this is one of our topic where we are involved as well. But to my point of view, of course, there is environmental impact. Of course, there is regulation. Of course, there is all these kind of things. But I would say this is not that different from any other business, digitalization or robotization or industrialization or whatever. This has always been here. I think the big new things that has affected us, human people, will also affect all this device of software, and this is really the cybersecurity.
There was a question there, I think. When?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. My question is, when you have a large amount of data and information and it's ever changing and perhaps it's entered by a lot of people, how do you ensure the accuracy of this data?
That's a very good question. I could make my point.
No, I think there's one and only way, and it's summarized in one word. It's training. I give you one example. I mean, a couple of years ago, I wanted to have a unified software for my accounting. So, and again, with the idea that the system would produce reports based on the raw data and allow me to do a more refined analysis, right? Because in the end, you want to produce all this data to get insights on things you were unable to analyze before. And of course, I got tons of issues because the finance manager in Shenyang, he was doing the accounting slightly different from the one in Shanghai, right? They were not booking the depreciation the same. They were, and you also found issues that were absolutely dumb that no one had seen for years. I mean, I remember one of the most stupid things was we took a loan from a partner, and the payback of the loan was, instead of being booked as paying back a loan, it was booked as an expense. So then, with all the impact it has on and your reports mean nothing anymore, right? Because it's not a cost, right? You're just paying back a loan. So same at the beginning when we started with working with Bluebee. At the very beginning, we were trying to do it in-house with one expert that we had trained in GSN, but the person also struggled to get the same standard from one side to the other. So then, after this, we outsourced the implementation to Civeco, and this is a decision I don't regret. So that's where the difficulties lie in the standardization. It's a lot of training, it's a lot of repeating, it's a lot of producing a handbook. How do we do this? How do we do that? How do you need to input the data? And that works that's the same for any system. The payroll, the accounting, Bluebee, the attendance records, all those things. It's only by training, repeating, spending time. I mean, I'm headquarters. I go to the branches often to talk to people, to say this is how we want to do this, how we want to unify, make the people talk together. Also with WeChat, you create WeChat groups. My finance managers, when I give an instruction, I just throw it in the group to make sure it goes to everyone at the same time. This is how in GSN we cope with those issues.
Well, yes.
Maybe also one good way to realize to measure the quality of your data is to use it. We have been developing tools, as I was saying, and initially the purpose was really to standardize processes. So the teams were following the processes, and then we were deriving some data from those inputs, the key ones, and that was okay. But then, as we are going deeper and deeper into exploiting this data, we realize, like Nicolas just said, that okay, some of the data is really bad actually, and so this is why I'm saying, okay, the best way to find bad data is to use it, and this is actually a very interesting area, because with all the software that you were using, we're sitting on a huge pile of data that is underused, and the more we use it, the more we realize the possibilities that using this data offers. And for our business, for example, as we deploy more plants in all of China, we realize that it helps us to standardize processes, but also from this data, it allows us to control things better and to detect anomalies. But in the process, I mean, as we do this, we realize more and more that we need data governance. We need data specialists in our team, which is something we had no idea 2 or 3 years ago. And this is changing completely the way we are approaching things, our organization, the people we recruit. It's really a fascinating topic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, more question about the cost of digitalization. Sorry, since that you're all using quite a bunch of tools to do that, and what's the relative cost of these tools, but compared to, as you said at the start, now your cost is mostly on human people, but as you are more and more using some digitalization tools, maybe this cost is also increasing and taking a sizable share of your company cost, working cost.
Whoever.
But for me, I would say overall, I think the cost is way under the value it delivers. Because for us, if you take the software, for example. No, because I mean the way, and it also goes with what we discussed before, the training. And also, I think what matters, of course, in the beginning you have some cost implementation, you have to pay for the I forgot the name of all those things, but yes, they are. And but in the beginning also your data is not really perfect, but you work by you know, that's what Deng Xiaoping said, right? We will cross the river by touching the stones, and in GSN we touch lots of stones, I can tell you. So at the beginning your data is not great, but you keep going, right? You keep going, the thing is refined, and once you have something really great, actually the good thing is for us, it's a very good tool for business development, because in GSN we have this saying, we say a satisfied client is the best basis for further development. So once you have your software that works on the, you can show to any client, right? You can show, you start your web browser, you show the report for your other clients, and people are like, wow. And so from this, actually, you have the first value that you get from improving your service, but then you get a second value, which is it's very impressive for potential clients, and for us, it helps us a lot for business development. I think, for example, this way we are able to digitalize the maintenance of the facilities. I think our competitors don't have anything really comparable at the moment. So I'm quite convinced, they didn't tell me for sure, but that this is how we got, for example, last year, we won the tender of the French-German school in Shanghai. I think they were kind of impressed by the system, by the transparency it brings, and how it helps get better insight on their facilities. So it took us time to arrive there, but because Bluebee we started, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. But now it's really a powerful tool, I would say, for service and business development. And so the cost is very minimal compared to what we get out of it, I would say. Same for other things. I mean, if you take another very simple thing, where I tell you immediately where I save the attendance system, right? I mean, I have around 130 projects around China, and those projects, they are scattered around areas that are massive, right? Beijing is, for example, is half the size of Belgium, and I have projects all around Beijing. Shanghai is smaller but also big, and we have projects all the way to Chongqing, Chengdu, and Shenzhen, and there we don't have a operational team. So I mean, we have no managers. So with the digitalized attendance system, where I get my data straight into my computer here, well, I save tons of money on transportation, on the DD, because before I was sending the HR there with the USB key to put in the machine, get the data, bring it back to the office, treat it in the office. So this, I mean, a machine costs maybe 2,000, and that's probably what I save from the first months I have it, actually, in terms of transportation costs. So the return on investment is gigantic.
Okay.
So that's an example.
Nicolas, you wanted to add on that?
So Benoit, obviously, as an IT lead, the cost is not that much, but I mean, at some point, yeah, I mean, when you want a P&L, that's significant, and we will have to discuss about that. That's significant. Now, I think first, I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer in terms of return on investment, because of course we know the bill. Of course we know the invoice received by whatever service provider, IT service provider, and so on. This is very obvious. But I think what is important is, yeah, the value, bring to the client, bring to the organization. Sometimes it's an intangible value, so it's difficult to estimate. And there is also some other way to look at a return on the investment. And what I'm trying to understand today, and I really don't have the answer, clearly, I don't know what to do, but I'm sure that one of the way to measure the return on investment and then to have a better sense of the cost increase is basically to look at all the things that you can trade off from having invested into the digital solution. And probably my experience, having started this journey 3 years ago to digitalize our labs, I have the strong feeling that we don't yet trade off. That means we still have our process in place. And on top of that, we have digitalized, but maybe we have not maximized the use of the digitalization. And we are still a legacy system or a legacy process or legacy habits that for whatever reason, the organization has not been brave enough to withdraw. And this is what I'm trying currently to understand. It's really not easy because, again, you have some tangible things and you have intangible things. Tangible things you can measure. You can say, okay, before we were doing that, now we are doing this. This cost me that much. Before it cost me that much. I have some saving. But there is so many different aspects that is not, you cannot perceive in terms of efficiency, in terms of everything cannot go to KPI. Everything cannot be measured. Like the happiness of the people. You know, this is also something that has to be put in the ROI. I'm sorry to say that, but even if we are businessmen, I mean, it's better to have the people who come to work in your company with a big smile every morning instead of having people who say, oh my God, I will have to do A, B, C, D task just to do that, just to send an email, just to do a test report, just to log in a sample in from a client. Well, if you have people who are happy, probably that's much better, right? And you can kind of quantify, but actually you cannot quantify the happiness of the people. So not easy to answer. There is a cost for sure. Probably there is a way to trade off, and probably the trade-off is never enough based on how you can maximize your digitalization. And I don't know if I will have the answer one day. Probably my boss will ask me the answer, but I don't know if I will be able to give her.
Okay.
Maybe just a short addition.
Okay. Yeah.
Last one then. The answer to your question, it really depends what you're trying to digitalize. If it's an existing, if you go for an existing digital solution that fits well whatever you're trying to digitalize, then the cost should be rather reasonable, and the return of investment should be okay. But if what you're trying to digitalize has no solution or no existing answer, which is ready to use, and you need to develop something specific, then the answer is different, because you need to invest money in something that is new, that doesn't exist. It means you bear a risk on your investment, and it's possible that in the end you're going to go in a dead end. So spend a lot of money for zero return of investment. So it really depends what you're trying to digitalize, in my view.
Maybe to follow up on the legacy habit thing you were talking about. I'm familiar with your three companies, very familiar. You're all facing new competitors, emerging Chinese competitors in your three markets. I think companies that come in from maybe two angles, and they are well capitalized, fresh Chinese capital, and then there's the idea that they will be able to start from a blank page. They don't have a legacy. They're new companies, and they bring in new technology, Chinese technologies, and 5G, whatnot. And by doing so, they'll be able to whatever, leapfrog over your heads and and take over the world. You all face such competitors. Do you see? And technology and digital tools is a big part of that story. Is this? Did you see that? Do you see that? And what do you feel? Is it real, or is that advantage of not having any legacy process and leapfrogging with technology? Does that compared to what maybe your historical advantage as Western firms with legacy processes, ways of working, long history, in the case of BV and Suez, for example, and then do you see, how do you see this happening? Is it really happening, or is it just a story?
I think no one, again, this is not new. There is one day, one guys who invent a kind of engine to replace the horse, right? And the guys who were doing those kind of stuff before handled by a horse, then they disappear and the automotive industry pick up. So it's not new, and it has been triggered by the innovation at that time. The world is the same compared to that time, except that you don't replace the horse by a car, but you replace what you were doing in our business, what we were doing before physically. We are replacing it step by step by digital means, supported by connected device, supported by artificial intelligence, supported by thousands of sensors who can capture a lot of different measure points. So is it a new threat, and do we see that? Yeah, of course. Bureau Veritas is born in 1828, 200 years existence. They have the company as probably the competitors has tried to disrupt BV and the TIC industry since 1828. And probably they will continue to do it. But this is what makes the world going on, right? We have disruptors who arrived in the market, and then the company who have a huge existence, they are fighting against that. They are reinventing themselves. Some can, some cannot. And we have example: Nokia, Toys R Us, Macy's, who were here since ever. And those companies, nobody believed that one day Nokia will disappear. Back in the 90s, we were like, come on, Nokia, who does not have a Nokia in his pocket? And Nokia just disappeared overnight. And this is also because of the innovation. So yes, of course we can have Chinese, by the way, or US or Europe competitors who can disrupt the market. But to me, it's nothing different than what happened for each of the kind of business cycle that every generation face.
Yeah, I would agree with Nicolas. If I take Suez as a whole, there's businesses where we are quite threatened. For example, waste collection, logistics services. This is an area where digitalized players can really pose a threat to us. So whether it is in wastewater treatment, or the monitoring of networks, the management and maintenance of networks, water networks, the management of fleets, we are investing a lot in R&D to resist. But in some of these businesses, especially domestic waste collection, we are actually quite suffering in Europe, for example. In hazardous waste, fortunately, it's more complicated. We have indeed a lot of new players in China, a lot of private equity firms and large state-owned enterprises that think that hazardous waste is the new golden rush of green. And we see them put huge amounts of money. But the interesting thing is, when we observe them, and we even have some joint ventures with them, they they have difficulty seizing the intangible benefits. I think you're talking about intangible benefits of digital solutions, and they kind of consider that actually digitalization is a bit expensive and doesn't bring a lot of benefits, and it's an industrial activity, so cost control is key. So far, the behavior of the players that we see in China specifically is not towards strong digital innovation. I think they're more obsessed about, okay, we're going to build a plant cheaper, we're going to operate it cheaper, we're going to IPO, make a lot of money in our pockets, and retire in 5 years. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but maybe not so much.
But not bad. Okay. So, do you want to complete on this one, Benoit?
Well, if you want, yes. Okay.
You seem hesitating, so it's fine.
No, for us, yes, of course. I mean, we're in an industry where basically we hire lots of people who are at the minimum wage or close to the minimum wage. It's not a very technical business. Not very, yeah, it doesn't require a lot of technical competencies. So what we are, of course, we are attacked, especially in smaller cities by local competitors. But the way we try to fight against this is by being ahead in terms of quality of service. In terms of cost, I think we're also competitive. I mean, especially if you compare in terms of quality, we compete with, I would say in terms of level of service, we are close to, I would say, the biggest companies, and those companies, they have much larger cost structures. I mean, structure costs than us, right? So we are very under them in terms of price, while remaining quite ahead in terms of quality with the local competitors. So this is how we try to stay ahead. I mean, we bring, as I explained, more transparency, more quality. We try to diversify a little bit our services, so also to create trust with the clients. No, more and more what we do, for example, is we do what we call commissioning. So it's when a client builds a new facility, very often what happens is at the end, the general contractor leave the site it's usually in bad condition. So usually the clients call us for what we call a deep cleaning. So we come and we help with really cleaning so in a way that the people want to come in the place, otherwise they don't. We help with the commissioning, also with the handover of the equipment from the construction company to the owner. So now that's a service we provide more and more. We come and we say to the client, don't worry, you're incompetent to know how the equipment have been laid and if they are going to be working. So we're going to do it for you. And thanks to this, usually when we provide this service, kind of naturally after this, we are given the facility management services. We want to do this more and more. So for example, and our competitors, they don't do this because, I don't know, they don't want to build a team of technicians and do those more qualified things. So that's how we also remain ahead of the competition. We have ideas like this all the time, so we try to implement those things. I mean, so far it's successful. We're also aided by the fact that actually the government, more and more, they are merging the tax bureau and the labor bureau, so they're able to see who cheats also in terms of social contributions more and more. And you know, as foreigners, we were already watched, right? So we were not cheating on this while the competitors were. But now that the government is really squeezing everyone, their costs are going up, right? And without the quality, so we're becoming more and more competitive. Actually, we see this as a chance.
So innovation and compliance to stay at the top in the end, with or without digital. Okay, I think we overused the time by a little bit. So thank you to the three of you for sharing all of your experience. And thanks to the French Chamber to organize this event and share their location and equipment for that. Thank you, guys. And once again, don't forget to scan the survey. It's good if we have feedback for preparing the next one. And I think